He did not recognize me at first. That is the part I keep coming back to. He walked through my front door on a Friday night, the busiest night of the week, and he stood in the entrance of the restaurant I had built from nothing, and he looked around at the full dining room and the open kitchen and the waitstaff, moving between tables, and he did not recognize that the woman who owned all of it was his daughter. He had to be told. My hostess came to find me in the kitchen. She said, "There is a couple at the front asking for the owner. They say it is personal." I wiped my hands on my apron. I walked out of the kitchen. I saw my father standing at the host stand in a blue blazer I did not recognize, next to my mother in a cream coat I did not recognize either. And I understood that 4 years is long, enough for parents to buy new clothes, and for a daughter to stop knowing what her parents wear. My father saw me. Something moved across his face. Not guilt. Not shame. Something more complicated than either of those. The expression of a man who has done a calculation and arrived at a number he needs and has come to collect it. He said, "Maya, this place is impressive." I said, "Robert, Linda, do you have a reservation?" He blinked. I had called him Robert. I had never called him Robert in my life. He processed this for exactly 2 seconds, and then he straightened his blazer and he said, "We need to talk. It is important. Is there somewhere private?" I looked at the dining room. 42 covers, every table full. Friday night service running exactly as it should. My sous chef had the kitchen. My floor manager had the room. I had exactly 20 minutes before I needed to be back. I said, "Follow me." I took them to my office. It is a small room at the back of the restaurant, behind the dry storage. A desk, 2 chairs, a filing cabinet, a corkboard covered in invoices and staff schedules. Not designed to impress, designed to work. My father looked around it the way he looked around everything, assessing, calculating, deciding what it was worth. He sat down without being invited to. My mother sat beside him. I stood. He said, "We will not waste your time. We are in a difficult situation. There are some financial pressures we have been dealing with for the past year, and we need $30,000. We need it within the month." I looked at him. I said nothing. He said, "You have clearly done well here. The restaurant is full. You have been written about. I saw the article in the city magazine. We are your family, Maya. We need your help." I want you to understand what I felt in that moment. Not anger. I had moved through anger, somewhere in the 2nd year of silence, and had come out the other side of it into something quieter and more permanent. What I felt standing in that office, looking at my father, was the specific clarity of a person who has already decided what they are going to do and is simply waiting for the right moment to do it. I said, "Give me a moment. I need to check on service." I walked out. I went to the kitchen. I told my sous chef I needed 10 more minutes. I went to the dry storage room adjacent to my office. I opened the bottom drawer of the secondary filing cabinet I keep there. I took out a folder. I had prepared it 8 months earlier when the restaurant was reviewed in the city magazine, and I had thought, quietly and without drama, that visibility of that kind sometimes produces consequences. I had prepared for the consequence. I had put the folder in the drawer. I had hoped I would never need it. I went back to the office. I sat down across from my father for the first time in 4 years. I put the folder on the desk between us. I did not open it yet. I said, "Before we discuss what you need, I want to make sure we are both remembering the same history. So I am going to tell you what I remember, and you can tell me if I have anything wrong." He nodded. He had the expression of a man who is confident in his version of events. I said, 4 years ago, I told you I was leaving my position at the firm to open a restaurant. I told you I had saved enough for the first year of operating costs and had secured a small business loan for the build-out. I told you I had a location, a concept, and a business plan that 3 separate advisors had reviewed favorably. He said, "You walked away from a career we had invested in." I said, "You told me I was making a foolish decision that you would not support in any way. You told me that if I proceeded, you would consider our relationship finished." Those were your exact words. I remember them specifically because I wrote them down that evening. My mother looked at the table. I said I proceeded. you considered our relationship finished. For 4 years, I received no phone calls, no messages, no contact of any kind from either of you. I did not come home for Christmas. I was not told when my grandmother was hospitalized. I found out she had died from a cousin I had not spoken to in 2 years. I sent flowers to the funeral. I did not attend because I was not told until 3 days after it happened. My father said that was a difficult period for all of us. I said it was a difficult period for me specifically. I want to be precise about that. I built this restaurant during that period. I worked 16-hour days for the first 18 months. I had 1 employee in year 1, myself. I cooked, I served, I cleaned, I did the books, I handled the suppliers, I managed the social media, I wrote the menu, I sourced every piece of furniture in this room. I did all of that without a single phone call from my family, without a single visit, without a single dollar that did not come from my own savings or my own loan repayments. I put my hand on the folder. I still did not open it. I said, I am telling you this not to make you feel guilty. I am telling you because you just used the word family, and I want to make sure we have a shared understanding of what that word has meant in practice before we discuss what you need. My father's jaw tightened. He said, we are here now. I said, you are here now because the city magazine ran a piece with a photograph of my dining room and an estimated annual revenue figure in the caption. You are here now because the number in that caption told you something useful. That is why you are here now. He said, that is not. I said, Robert, I am going to show you something. I opened the folder. Inside was a single document. 2 pages. I had had it prepared by my business attorney 8 months earlier. When I first understood that the restaurant's visibility might produce exactly this visit, it was a detailed accounting, every dollar. I had spent building and operating the restaurant for 4 years. Every loan repayment, every supplier invoice, every staff payroll, every piece of equipment, every month of rent. The total at the bottom was $340,000. Below the total was a second figure. It was the amount my parents had contributed to the construction and operation of the restaurant over 4 years. That figure was 0. Below the 0 was a third section. It was a summary of the documented communications, or rather the absence of them, over the 4-year period. Phone records showing 0 calls received from either parent. A log I had kept during years 2 and 3, every week noting the date and confirming no contact. A copy of the cousin's message, telling me my grandmother had died and the timestamp showing it arrived 3 days after the funeral. I had not assembled this document out of bitterness. I had assembled it because I am a person who has learned that the difference between a feeling and a fact is documentation, and that facts are the only things that hold in a room when someone is trying to rewrite history. My father looked at the document for a long time. He turned to the second page. He looked at the 0. He looked at the contact log. He set it down. My mother had not said a single word since we sat down. She was looking at the document with an expression I recognized from my childhood, the expression she uses when she knows something is wrong and has made the decision not to say so. I said, you are welcome to take a copy of that document. My attorney prepared it and it is accurate in every detail. If you believe any figure in it is incorrect, I am happy to provide the underlying receipts and records. My father said, Maya. I said, I am not finished. He stopped. I said, you came here tonight and asked me for $30,000. I want to give you my answer. The answer is no. Not because I cannot afford it. I can afford it. The answer is no because the word you used was family and I need you to understand what that word requires before. It can mean anything in this room. I closed the folder. I stood up. I said, I am going to go back to my kitchen now because I have a full dining room and a service to finish. You are welcome to stay for dinner. I will have a table arranged for you at no charge. The tasting menu tonight is very good. I am proud of it. I picked up the folder. I walked to the door. I stopped with my hand on the frame. I said, I kept a record of every week for 4 years. Every week I wrote down the date and I noted that neither of you had called. I did that because I needed to stay grounded in what was real, not what I hoped. What was real? I want you to know that I am not angry. I stopped being angry a long time ago. But I am also not the person who left this family 4 years ago. That person needed your approval. This person does not. I walked back into my restaurant. The kitchen was running perfectly. My sous chef had the pass. The dining room was full and warm and loud with the specific sound of people having a good time, which is the sound I had worked for 4 years to create. My parents stayed for dinner. I know because my floor manager told me afterward. They ordered from the tasting menu. They did not send anything back. When the bill came, my father reached for his wallet and my floor manager told him the owner had taken care of it. They left without coming back to the kitchen. My father called me 3 days later. He did not mention the $30,000. He asked how the restaurant was going. I said it was going well. He said, "You have done something real there, Maya." I said, "I know, Robert." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You can call me Dad." I said, "I know I can. I have not deposited a single dollar of family money into this restaurant. I never will. Not because I am punishing anyone, because the thing I built required that it be mine completely. Every dollar of debt was mine. Every 16-hour day was mine. Every decision, every failure, every correction, every small victory at the end of a long service was mine. My grandmother used to say that the most important thing a person can own is something they built with their own hands while nobody was watching. She was right. She was always right. I just needed 4 years of silence to understand it.